going to work on a project today that I think you'll find a little bit fun. This is an emoji drawing. Emoji is all the rage these days. We're going to start by filling our page with a couple different sized circles. I'm using a styrofoam cup to begin with to draw some circles. This will give us the larger size of circle. The closer you are to the front, the larger the circle is going to be. As we start layering and putting some circles behind these circles, those circles will be a little bit smaller because things that are farther away appear smaller than things that are close. So I've drawn several of the larger size circles. Now I've got a different cup and I'm drawing smaller circles to fill in the space. They don't have to be full circles. And remember, we're overlapping. We're actually going behind circles. So we want to make sure that we're not like going over the circles we already started. Now everybody should get a sheet of examples of emoji. These are many different emoji that you might be using if you use social media. Just examples to help you out because we're going to fill all these circles here with different emoji. So I'm going to show you a few here that I'm drawing quickly. You might know what these all actually mean, but I just drew the ones that I think are kind of cute. So I'm trying to draw a different emoji in every single circle. You might be better at sketching these than I am. Now, if you have favorite emoji, you could possibly repeat them. In my project, I made every single face a different emoji, a different expression. I think that just adds a little interest. I haven't come to it yet, but you'll see in a little bit. I'm actually going to add a Mrs. Gonzalez emoji up here. Actually, that's what I'm working on right now, drawing. It's got the glasses. It's got my sideways parted hair. If you've never really, if you don't do social media and you don't really know what emoji are, they're just the yellow happy faces that you see everywhere, but they have different expressions. So they could be happy, they could be in love, they could be, look at all them, blowing kisses. There's one there that has a smirk on it. Like this one that I'm starting with, kind of a halfway smile. It's like a smirk. Like, yeah, whatever. All right, now I'm starting to color in, and all of the facial features that are normally like black when you see them on your social media. I started with brown and I kind of colored them in, and then I used black. At, I added a touch of black later to kind of give them a little bit of shading so it's not just quite so flat. If you really take your time with this, it actually comes out looking really cool. And it doesn't look like you just sat there and drew a bunch of circles and drew the really quick like stick figure happy faces on them. It actually looks like, I care what I'm doing and I'm trying to make this look nice. Okay, so see, I colored in the eyes, the eyebrows, and the mouth in with the brown. Now I'm going to take a black colored pencil and I'm going to go back on the underside of those facial features and kind of give it a little shadow on the bottom, just to give those features a little bit more emphasis and make them a little less flat. As we're going through and coloring in these different faces, I did use shading in each of the circles. The class I'm doing this with this year, we already practiced shading, practiced thinking about where our light source is, and whichever side of the sphere is facing the light source should be the lightest area, and whatever is farthest from the light source is going to be darker. And then remember, since we're layering the different faces, if there's a face behind another face, that face is also going to have some darkness to it. So since this mark here that I'm coloring in right now, it's in front. It doesn't have anything in front of it. It's probably the closest of the faces to the actual light source that we're pretending that there is. There's not going to be a lot of shading in the sphere, but there will be some shading because it's not just flat. It is a sphere, so it does need a little bit of shading, which you'll see as soon as I get done adding a little bit of emphasis to the facial features. Now you can see I didn't just color this in and just say, okay, I colored it brown, there, on to the next thing. I took my time with it and I added, the shading to it. Just makes it look that much nicer. Um, I didn't add cheeks to every single one of my emoji, but this one I did add a little bit of cheeks. So I took the red and very lightly colored in a circle for the cheeks. You don't want to color it too darkly because you don't want it to look like a clown's cheeks. You want it to kind of blend in with the yellow when you color the yellow on top. Now to do the shading, I didn't use black, I used the orange or the red orange um, to just shade around the circle. And then I also, with the shading, I also went back with some brown in the very darkest areas. I made sure I added a little bit of brown um, to the shading, so it's not just the red or the orange. But see, I didn't put too much pressure to begin with this orange, because you don't want it to go boom and be in your face orange. This is just for shading. So it's always better to start lighter because you can always go darker. But if you start too dark, then it's very difficult to bring the light back out again once it's dark. Okay, so there I've shaded in with orange just all the way around the circle. My light source is pretty much the viewer. Like, so right now I'm sitting here looking at the pictures, so the light source is coming from where I am. So it's kind of, the light is coming directly in front of the picture, pointing at the picture. So the part of the face that's facing you is probably going to be the lightest part, and then it gets a little shadow or a little shading around the outside of the circle, as you can see. Now I'm coloring in the yellow. I don't color over, I'm not coloring over the facial features that I did with the brown and the black, but I am going over the cheeks and I am going over the orange that I have around the outside, the shadow or the shading part, just because I want it to blend a little more in those areas. But I don't want it to blend with the facial features. I don't want them to get kind of blurry. I want them to stay nice and crisp. That's why I'm not coloring over the eyes or over the eyebrows or any of that. But see, I'm coloring over the cheeks. I'm putting quite a bit of pressure with the yellow. You just kind of have to learn how to put pressure, but not too much pressure, because you don't want your pencils to just completely break on you as you're coloring these in. I don't know if maybe it's the angle that you put the pencil. If you're trying to color in with the point straight down on your paper, like perpendicular to your paper, um, it's more likely that it's going to break all the time. But if you kind of use the side more to shade it in, it doesn't break quite as much. I guess that's something you just learn with practice with a pencil. I know a lot of you are used to using a pencil only to do your classroom work. So there's many different techniques that you can use a pencil to create different um, values, different effects on your paintings or drawings, pictures. Now, see how long it took me just to do one emoji? And I've got this video sped up a little bit. So I really don't want anybody to just draw your circles and then say, "Hey, miss, I'm done," because you just rushed and colored it in fast. But see, with this particular emoji, it is behind several other emojis. So I made sure in the areas that's behind something else, you need to make those darker with the shadows, with the shading. Somebody will have to help me with what exactly this emoji means with the X's on its eyes. I mean, when I see X's on the eyes like that, I always think something being dead. So I don't know if that's a dead emoji or if it actually means something else. You'll have to tell me. That little guy doesn't look very happy. But again, he's behind the emoji, the smirking emoji. So got to make sure that I have the shadow that runs there underneath what the smirk one is. Hopefully you'll have an idea of how I'm expecting these emoji to be colored in. And here's the final work.